took 9 years before but I began to play the nightclubs in and around Southern California.
At 68 years old, country music legend Dwight Yoakam has finally broken his silence. And what he just revealed is sending shockwaves through Nashville and beyond. For decades, fans and critics alike have whispered, speculated, and wondered about the man behind the rhinestone suits and signature twang. Was there truth behind the rumors that followed him throughout his rise to fame? Well, wonder no more, because Dwight just confirmed what many long suspected, and it changes everything. So buckle up, because this isn't just another story about guitars and Cadillacs. This is the real Dwight Yoakam, unfiltered, and finally ready to speak.
With the exception, they were the greasers, I was just me.
Path to stardom. Before Dwight Yoakam became a household name in country music, his path to stardom was marked by raw determination, countless rejections, and late nights in smoky bar rooms. In the late 1970s and early 1980s, he began performing in small venues around Southern California, a place not known at the time for embracing the twang of traditional country music. Yet Dwight's brand of hillbilly honky-tonk stood in stark contrast to the polished, pop-oriented country dominating Nashville. He refused to conform to the urban cowboy trend of the era, instead leaning into the gritty sounds of Bakersfield and rockabilly influences. This commitment to authenticity made it difficult for him to find gigs at first. But it also set him apart from the crowd. Yoakam's shows were raw and unflinching. He performed 5 sets a night in bars where fights broke out and beer bottles might sail through the air at any time. In spite of the seedy surroundings, he took every performance as an opportunity to hone his art. Without the mainstream cash or label support, Dwight had to rely on word-of-mouth support, converting crowds one song at a time. These early years, marred by adversity and uncertainty, served to forge the fire and edge that would eventually characterize his distinctive sound and live performances. Interestingly enough, Dwight's first attempts to penetrate the Nashville market were met with indifference. He went to Music City in 1976, only to discover the business had its priorities focused more on songwriters and polished studio acts, and was less interested in live acts. He then knew that Nashville back then had more to do with publishing than with personality, and his rough-around-the-edges, high-energy stage act was not part of their model. Rather than conforming, Dwight made the bold move to break from the outside in and show that innovation was achievable in tradition. These early struggles laid the groundwork for what would be a seismic revolution for country music. By being true to his heritage and embracing the gritty environment that embraced his music, Dwight Yoakam built a loyal base long before he ever found himself at chart-topping. His life in the trenches gave him both seasoning and legitimacy, something that can't be faked in a studio. When he finally came out with Guitars, Cadillacs, it wasn't a hit song. It was the battle cry of a man who had worked his way up and never compromised on his ideals. After years of rejection, Yoakam's breakthrough wasn't just a debut. It was proof that staying true to his roots could change country music forever. Breakthrough with Guitars, Cadillacs. Dwight Yoakam's 1986 debut album, Guitars, Cadillacs, etc., etc., was more than just a strong first release. It was a shot of adrenaline straight into the heart of country music. At a time when the genre was drifting toward pop-driven production, Yoakam's record brought it back to its raw, rootsy essence. Produced by longtime collaborator Pete Anderson, the album embraced the Bakersfield sound, a California-born branch of country known for its twangy guitars, sharp edge, and honky-tonk heartbeat. From the very first notes, it was clear Yoakam wasn't chasing trends. He was creating a new lane grounded in tradition but delivered with a rock and roll spirit. The lead single off the album, a cover of Johnny Horton's Honky Tonk Man, rapidly climbed the charts and brought Yoakam's distinct style to a national stage. However, it was the title track, Guitars, Cadillacs, that best marked his debut. With its catchy guitar riffs, lonely lyrics, and swaggering confidence, the song became the career-defining anthem of Yoakam. Its success on the country charts and in surprising urban markets demonstrated that Dwight was on to something larger, a growing hunger for authenticity in a genre many believed had lost its edge. Guitars, Cadillacs, etc., actually brought down the house on the charts as much with audiences as with critics. The album went on to earn double platinum status, with Yoakam being hailed as having redefined cool and credibility into country music. Other artists are then set apart from him by a synthesis of die-hard songwriting and showmanship, and a respect for the heroes of the genre. Dwight didn't just do country. He lived it and reminded everybody what it sounded like without gimmicks. His vintage persona and rebellious attitude made him both revivalist and revolutionary. Guitars, Cadillacs became the official launching pad for Dwight Yoakam as a force in country music and instantly changed the course of his career. He no longer played dive bars and rock clubs in Los Angeles, but sold out venues around the country. More importantly, he proved to the industry and to Nashville that there was still room for risk-takers with delusions of grandeur. Pioneer that this new idea was the launchpad for a career extending over the decades and influencing hundreds of artists to settle into a permanent spot in the history of country music. Beck and the Unexpected Evolution. Dwight Yoakam's collaboration with alternative rock icon Beck marked a surprising and transformative chapter in his career. Known for blending genres and defying convention, Beck brought a fresh, experimental approach to Yoakam's traditionalist roots. Their creative partnership began during the production of Yoakam's 2012 album, 3 Pairs, where Beck co-produced 2 tracks. This unlikely pairing bridged generational and stylistic gaps, proving that country music could evolve without losing its soul. Beck's influence encouraged Yoakam to embrace a more freewheeling studio process, blending raw honesty with sonic innovation. One of the most pivotal moments in their collaboration came during the recording of A Heart Like Mine. Yoakam had laid down a scratch track with electric guitar, an instrument he typically didn't take the lead on, and Beck insisted he keep the take. This moment symbolized a shift in Yoakam's creative mindset. He let go of perfectionism and leaned into authenticity, capturing the emotional immediacy that had defined his early work. Beck's guidance helped Yoakam rediscover the artistic freedom he had first felt as a teenager performing live, adding a layer of vulnerability and excitement to his newer material. The partnership also brought Yoakam a new audience, indie and alt-rock fans who might not have otherwise heard his music. Beck's experimental nature complemented surprisingly well with Yoakam's Bakersfield twang, creating a sound that was both classic and modern. Tracks such as Take Hold of My Hand and Rock It All Away showed the depth of this cross-pollination, where pedal steel guitars spun around layered vocal harmonies and creative rhythms. For Yoakam, the collaboration wasn't about following trends, it was about challenging creative boundaries while remaining grounded in emotional truth. Aside from the music, the Beck collaboration also marked a larger shift in Yoakam's artistry. It reminded listeners and critics alike that he was more than a country traditionalist, but a genre-bending artist willing to take risks. What they did together proved that development doesn't necessarily equate to reinvention, but can also mean stripping away the layers to rediscover something fundamental. Beck might have been a surprising partner, but his presence revitalized Yoakam's appetite for experimentation and solidified his position as one of the boldest voices in American music. Most of all, the Beck partnership confirmed for Yoakam that creative development has to emerge from a sense of personal honesty and not commercial calculation. Rather than attempting to fit the bill of industry norms or radio popularity, Yoakam went for a more intuitive, emotion-driven approach, leaving things up to his instincts and the immediacy of the moment. This transition paved the way for greater self-expression in both his production and songwriting, reminding him that vulnerability and improvisation can be stronger than sheen. In retrospect, working with Beck wasn't a creative sidestep. It was a reclaiming of artistic liberty that still resonates in his music today, from stage to screen. While Dwight Yoakam first rose to fame as a country music trailblazer, his talents were never confined to the stage alone. Early in his career, Yoakam dabbled in acting through school plays and community theater, discovering a knack for holding an audience's attention. This early exposure to performance beyond music sparked an interest that would eventually lead him to Hollywood. Although his focus remained on music during the peak of his recording success, Yoakam always harbored a desire to expand his storytelling through film and television, seeking roles that resonated with his artistic sensibilities. Yoakam's breakout acting role came in 1996 when he played the abusive Doyle Hargraves in Billy Bob Thornton's critically acclaimed film Sling Blade. The dark, emotionally charged performance stunned audiences and critics alike, showcasing a side of Yoakam that few had seen before. His raw portrayal earned him widespread praise and helped establish him as a serious actor, not just a musician dabbling in film. The success of Sling Blade opened doors for Yoakam in the acting world, where his understated yet intense style brought authenticity to every character he portrayed. Through the years, Yoakam accumulated a fantastic resume, appearing in a variety of roles in movies like Panic Room, The Newton Boys, and Crank. He also made memorable TV guest appearances on Under the Dome and Wilfred, among others, showing his versatility. Yoakam tended to be drawn to complicated, quirky characters, roles that enabled him to access the same emotional truth that drove his music. His acting had a low-key intensity, typically based in the same gritty storytelling that underlay his songwriting, which made him a natural for dramatic and character-based stories. Acting not only widened Yoakam's artistic vision, but also grounded him deeper in fans. To others, it was a surprise to see the country superstar portray characters so far removed from his stage mic persona. Either on tour with an acoustic guitar or in front of a movie camera, however, Yoakam was a storyteller, a keeper true to candor, exposure, and emotional truth. His move from stage to screen was not a sidestep. It was an extension of the same creative endeavor that made him a cultural icon, proving that genuine talent has no genre or medium. This easy transition into acting also created a vehicle for Yoakam to explore new modes of artistic expression that complemented his music rather than competing with it. He often approached film parts in the same gut-level storytelling way he wrote songs, creating characters from the inside out, from what motivated them, what hurt them, and what made them human. In interviews, he's spoken about how each of the crafts has the same rhythm, a tempo of emotional beats that, when performed truthfully, ring powerfully with an audience. Whether portraying a villain, a drifter, or a wise outsider, Yoakam brought his lived-in authenticity to film, and every performance seemed rooted and unforgettable. Feud with Nashville's music establishment, Dwight Yoakam's early foray into the country music world was met with skepticism by many in Nashville, the heart of the genre's establishment. Rather than conforming to the polished sound of mainstream country in the 1980s, Yoakam leaned into the raw, twang-heavy essence of the Bakersfield sound, a style popularized by legends like Buck Owens and Merle Haggard. At a time when Nashville was embracing the urban cowboy trend, which merged pop elements with country aesthetics, Yoakam's throwback honky-tonk approach felt jarring and out of place to many executives. His music, while rooted in tradition, had an edge that didn't quite fit the mold. Yoakam's image also clashed with what Nashville expected from its stars. He wore skin-tight jeans, flashy jackets, and a low-slung cowboy hat that became his signature look, presenting a visual contrast to the more buttoned-up styles of his contemporaries. This aesthetic, along with his unapologetically bold personality, didn't sit well with country's gatekeepers, who viewed him as too rebellious and unconventional. His choice to build his fan base through rock clubs and alternative venues in Los Angeles instead of Music Row only fueled the divide, highlighting his intent to create a lane entirely his own. Rather than holding out for approval, Yoakam doubled up on his independence. He teamed with a fellow kindred spirit producer in Pete Anderson, and the two of them created a sound that wedded honky-tonk heritage with rock and roll attitude. The result was the breakthrough album Guitars, Cadillacs, etc., etc., which deeply resonated with listeners even though Nashville initially gave him the cold shoulder. The success of the album made the industry sit up and take notice, demonstrating that there was a demand for traditional country music that wasn't following the trends on the radio. It was a gutsy affirmation of Yoakam's instincts and his refusal to bend. In retrospect, Dwight Yoakam's feud with the Nashville establishment had more to do with artistic tension than outright hostility. He defied conventions and, in the process, paved the way for others to follow in his footsteps, those who preferred authenticity to formula. Nashville gradually came around to more stylistic diversity over the years, and Yoakam's initial resistance is given much credit for expanding the genre's parameters. Although he might have been called an outsider during his initial days, Dwight Yoakam eventually showed that there is always space for rebels in country music, and sometimes they are the ones who take it the furthest. Legal dispute with producer Pete Anderson. Dwight Yoakam's collaboration with guitarist and producer Pete Anderson was one of the most iconic creative partnerships in country music during the late 20th century. Anderson was instrumental in crafting the twangy, Bakersfield-influenced sound that helped define Yoakam's breakout albums, including Guitars, Cadillacs, etc., etc., and This Time. The two worked closely for nearly 20 years, producing a string of critically acclaimed and commercially successful records that earned Yoakam widespread recognition as a traditionalist with a rock and roll edge. Their musical synergy was undeniable, with Anderson's guitar work and production style perfectly complementing Yoakam's voice and vision. However, behind the scenes, cracks in their professional relationship began to emerge in the early 2000s. In 2004, Pete Anderson filed a lawsuit against Yoakam for breach of contract, claiming that the artist had failed to fulfill several concert obligations. According to Anderson, Yoakam's cancellation of scheduled performances caused significant financial harm, particularly because Anderson had invested his own resources in preparing for the shows. The legal filing revealed underlying tensions that had been brewing for some time, including differences over management decisions and business priorities. The lawsuit was ultimately resolved out of court, with the details kept confidential. Although neither side made broad public comments on the settlement, it was obvious that the harm to their relationship was irreparable. The court battle not only ended one of country music's most successful producer-artist collaborations, but it also served as a turning point in Yoakam's career. After the split, Yoakam became more involved in his own production work on his albums, a choice that gave him more creative say, but also transformed the sonic imprint familiar to audiences. Although the breakup was acrimonious, both Yoakam and Anderson have remained circumspect but respectful about their time as collaborators. To many fans, the collaboration marked a golden period of Yoakam's career, with creativity and integrity pouring into every recording. The collapse reminded everyone of the intricate balance between art and commerce, particularly in long-term creative partnerships. Though they've never reunited professionally, the work of their collaboration continues to impact generations of musicians who respect the unique sound they created together. While Yoakam's legal dispute with Pete Anderson marked the end of a pivotal creative partnership, his later battle with Warner Music underscored a broader, more personal fight, not just over collaboration, but over ownership and control of the very music that defined his legacy. Copyright lawsuit against Warner Music. In 2021, Dwight Yoakam launched a legal battle against Warner Music Group, one of the most prominent record labels in the world, over ownership rights to his early music. The dispute focused primarily on Yoakam's debut album, Guitars, Cadillacs, etc., etc., a landmark release that helped redefine country music in the 1980s. According to the lawsuit, Yoakam claimed that Warner Music failed to honor his legal termination notices under the Copyright Act, which allows artists to reclaim rights to their works after a set period of time, typically 35 years after the original release. Yoakam alleged that the label continued to exploit and distribute his early recordings without his consent, in violation of the law. The Copyright Act's termination provision has increasingly become a tool for veteran artists seeking to regain control over their most valuable works. For Yoakam, who co-wrote much of the material on his early albums and shaped the distinctive sound of that era, reclaiming those rights was both a legal and personal milestone. His legal team argued that Warner's continued control over the masters and distribution channels hindered his ability to manage and profit from his own legacy. The case reflected broader tensions in the music industry, as artists increasingly push back against long-standing contractual norms that favor record labels. Warner Music's defense relied on contractual and procedural grounds, questioning allegedly the validity and timing of the termination notices sent by Yoakam. But the lawsuit never came to a public trial. In 2022, the two sides settled the case privately, and the terms of the settlement were not revealed. Even though the public details of the resolution were not available, the settlement indicated that both parties agreed on a mutually satisfactory solution, and it probably included changes in how Yoakam's early catalog would be monetized or handled in the future. The case attracted notice not only due to Yoakam's status as a musician, but also due to the emphasis it placed upon a struggle persistent among legacy performers. The dispute highlighted the problem of musicians losing control over intellectual property, even years following release. While Yoakam himself has been relatively silent on the outcome, the act itself was a testament to his dedication to defending his creative rights and seeing his early contributions to music history honored on his own terms. It also became a cautionary tale and possible inspiration for other artists who must navigate the convoluted nexus of copyright law and corporate music ownership. Controversial film, South of Heaven, West of Hell. Dwight Yoakam's leap into filmmaking with the 2000 Western drama South of Heaven, West of Hell was one of the most ambitious and ultimately controversial ventures of his career. Yoakam didn't just star in the film, he also wrote, directed, co-produced, and scored the soundtrack, taking full creative control over the project. The film, which aimed to blend gritty Western aesthetics with psychological depth, featured an ensemble cast including Vince Vaughn, Bridget Fonda, and Billy Bob Thornton. Despite its star power and Yoakam's passion for the material, the film struggled to find critical or commercial success. Upon its release, South of Heaven, West of Hell was widely panned by critics, who described the film as disjointed, self-indulgent, and overly ambitious. Its confusing plot and uneven pacing led to poor reviews, and the movie failed to gain traction at the box office or through limited home video distribution. Critics noted that while Yoakam's intentions may have been artistically driven, his inexperience as a director contributed to the film's shortcomings. What was meant to be a bold crossover into Hollywood instead became a cautionary tale of how creative overreach can backfire. Financially, the movie was a big drain on Yoakam. After major investors dropped out in production, Yoakam was reportedly personally funding a large part of the film, using personal money and even going into debt to complete the film. The financial stress not only placed a burden on his own finances, but also generated increased tensions with veteran associates, such as members of his band and business organization. These tensions preceded a series of professional rifts within Yoakam's inner circle, some of which would ultimately emerge in lawsuits and management upheavals. Although there was a backlash, South of Heaven, West of Hell is still a vital page in Yoakam's history, evidence of both his artistic vision and risk-taking attitude. In retrospect, most fans and industry experts consider the movie to be a flawed experiment that did not catch on, not a total flop. Yoakam himself has seldom commented publicly on the fallout from the film, but its legacy remains as a testament to an artist who, for better or worse, won't play it safe. Being humbled by the experience, if he has been humbled at all, only served to reinforce his determination to remain true to his vision, even when it comes with high costs. Notable roles and reflection. Dwight Yoakam's acting career has been marked by a range of compelling performances that prove his versatility and depth as an artist. After his breakout role in Sling Blade, where he portrayed the intensely volatile Doyle Hargraves, Yoakam went on to secure parts that showcased different facets of his talent. In David Fincher's Panic Room, 2002, he played the chillingly menacing Raoul, a masked intruder whose quiet cruelty made him one of the film's most unsettling characters. The contrast between his musical persona and this dark, understated role left a strong impression on viewers, further establishing him as a serious actor. Yoakam has also shown a lighter, more comedic side in projects like Wedding Crashers, 2005, where he made a memorable cameo, and in the quirky FX series Wilfred, in which he appeared as the mysterious and eccentric Dr. Cahill. These roles allowed him to explore humor and surrealism, expanding his range beyond the intense drama that had become his early acting signature. His appearance on the CBS drama Under the Dome also illustrated his ability to dive into serialized television, offering steady performances that added depth to ensemble casts. Along the way, Yoakam has remained thoughtful and humble regarding his experience as an actor. When speaking with reporters, he has frequently underscored how his process as an actor is like his music, based on authenticity, heart, and a profound respect for storytelling. He has attributed working in theater in junior high and high school with helping him gain the courage to play difficult roles and rely on his instincts in front of the camera. For Yoakam, acting is less about chasing celebrity status than discovering new methods of depicting the unvarnished human feelings that underlie his songwriting. Looking back on his own career, Yoakam views his music and movie success as two threads of the same artistic fabric. He's never separated them, but always recognized that his acting, whether on screen or on stage, was about conveying a story that was real and lived in. As he keeps broadening his body of work as an actor, both on screen and off mic, Yoakam remains an odd talent who bridges the worlds of Hollywood and country music with honesty, toughness, and a love of his craft. Reflecting on his acting work, Yoakam also sees how they have impacted his frame of mind, both as an artist and as a teller of tales. Getting into and out of other people has helped develop an awareness of emotional nuance that has worked its way back into interpreting lyrics and feeling in song. He's spoken about how the on-screen vulnerability demanded of him isn't that different from being on stage with a guitar. Both require honesty, and the desire to share something intimate. This artistic alignment has enriched his performances in both forms, allowing fans to sense his honesty in rich and unexpected ways. As Yoakam reflects on the emotional depth acting has brought to his music, he steps boldly into the next chapter, one defined not by nostalgia, but by continued evolution and creative exploration. The road ahead. As Dwight Yoakam enters the next chapter of his life and career, he shows no signs of slowing down. At 68, he continues to evolve as both a musician and actor, embracing new creative ventures while staying true to his roots. He remains committed to preserving the authenticity of traditional country and honky-tonk music, genres that shaped him and that he helped redefine for new generations. Whether it's through recording new material, hitting the road for live performances, or collaborating with younger artists, Yoakam is as driven and passionate as ever. One of the most significant aspects of Yoakam's future is his role as a cultural torchbearer. As country music continues to blend with pop and hip-hop influences, Yoakam stands as a reminder of the genre's rich past. He has become a mentor to emerging artists who seek his guidance and respect his contributions to the craft. His Sirius XM radio show, Dwight Yoakam and the Bakersfield Beat, serves not only as a platform to share classic country and rockabilly influences, but also as a vehicle to spotlight underrepresented voices in the industry. Aside from music, Yoakam has indicated interest in seeking additional acting roles and potentially delving into work behind the camera. With his sharp eye for narrative and intimate knowledge of character development, a move into directing or producing appears to be an organic next step. With his previous success in award-winning films and his introspective style of performance, it's safe to say he'll continue to surprise fans with new and impactful endeavors. His versatility positions him to thrive in multiple creative lanes, all while maintaining the integrity that's become his signature. Looking to the future, Dwight Yoakam's legacy remains to be written, not only by his own body of work, but by the impact he's had on the culture of American music and movies. His combination of innovation, respect for tradition, and bold individuality has established him as a genuine original. Whether he's dropping new tracks, performing old hits on stage, or walking onto a movie set, fans can count on the same raw power and emotional depth that has characterized his career. The future may be unclear, but for Dwight Yoakam, it's another open road full of possibility, purpose, and a passion that refuses to wane. Another factor influencing the road ahead for Dwight Yoakam is his changing relationship with his fans, one that has grown up along with him. While longtime fans remain loyal, a new generation is finding his catalog through streaming services, collaborations, and renewed enthusiasm for traditional country. This intergenerational appeal reflects the agelessness of Yoakam's craft and the emotional connection of his songwriting. With an increasing online presence and a reputation as a no-frills authentic performer, Yoakam is well-placed to bridge the gap between tradition and contemporary times, demonstrating that real talent only gets better with age. Thanks for watching this deep dive into the controversies and legacy of Dwight Yoakam. If you found it as fascinating as we did, don't forget to hit that like button to show your support. Got thoughts on Dwight's journey or personal memories tied to his music? Drop a comment below. We'd love to hear from you. And if you haven't already, subscribe and ring the bell so you never miss a story that dives beneath the surface. Before you go, tap the next video on your screen. There's more music history and untold stories waiting just for you.